wakituma fare in advance. Penye mefika, no romance with no finance. Only fans, yeah, yeah.
Hello, ladies blowing up my phone. You call me baby. I keep hearing you are so bomb. Wakituma fare twakuja kwako. Oh yo, steady grinding all night long. Nasikuji kasi form ya door. Itabidi ukanje ndo tupige show. Ukisikia sauti solo jue ni kubaya. Hii muziki ya Kenya twaipeleka Ulaya. Na temperature inapanda warazi wanakwaya. Tutashinda magrami before tumeretire. Mise only fans walimefika natambua only fans. Kanika kitu umetumia only fans. Walimefika nafanyia only fans. Only fans, yeah, yeah, only fans. Walimefika natambua only fans. Kanika kitu umetumia only fans. Walimefika mutambua only fans. Only fans, yeah, yeah.
Pawa Radio. Tune in and power up.
Unajua ukishasikia hiyo ngoma uko about kunisikia pia. Woot woot. I love that song. I think I've said this before. It is the soundtrack of my life right now. Ikichange ndambia. Ikichange tutachange pia ngoma. That's what's going to happen. We will do another soundtrack of my life. Today we want to talk about the role of religion in gender-based violence. Religion is I know it's a touchy subject. There's things we don't like to talk about. There's truths we don't like to hear about. But, it is what it is. There's people who use religion as a way to cope with gender-based violence or when they're getting out of it. But then there's also a huge contributing factor as to how gender-based violence continues due to religion. And it's usually because of how religion preaches to us in regards to things like divorce, in regards to things like, what is that other word that they like to use? Submission. And then there's also how people interpret love. And there's people who, if you've grown up, there's a statistic. I'm not going to quote numbers because I don't have them at the top of my head. But there's statistics that if someone grew up in a violent home, they are most likely to become violent themselves. This doesn't apply to everyone, but it does happen. And when it comes to, the reason I wanted to talk about the religious aspect of it as well is because of how religion, I'd talk about the religion I've practiced in, but I also know this sort of extends to other religious practices as well, other doctrines, and it's how it protects the people who perpetuate this violence, right? We mentioned this on Monday, that there's a higher risk. Right now, people are coming out, PWDs are coming out and saying the kind of violence they face, the gender-based violence that they're facing in their homes. And I was like, why? Like already, there's certain things that we don't like to talk about. You hear stories about even in churches. Let me go to a place I've been in. In churches, you'll hear stories about and people talk about it chini ya maji. And the worst part is everyone knows, right? Everyone talks about unajua tana mchapanga. And then upata maybe they're even discussing the pastor themselves or maybe the church elders or such things. But then they come and then they use religion as a way to just protect themselves, because all they have to do is say, I have prayed about it and God has forgiven me. Who are you not to? And I really, if there's something I don't like, it's when people push this narrative of the forgiveness and as long as God is, with God, all I have to do is pray and it's forgiven. So who are you to think that you get to take your time when it comes to forgiving me? So there's that part. The second part is the other aspect where you'll go like maybe to the counseling sessions, and you go and maybe you're talking to maybe the religious leader or the counselor at church or the pastor, because sometimes these things are done by the pastor and the pastor's wife. And you sit down with them and you talk about, by the way, he slapped me, he did this. And then they say, unajua kuna wengine wanafanyanga. You should be grateful that that's all he's doing. There's people who are doing ABC. And I find that to be very, very disturbing. I find it very disturbing that there's someone who would sit down and think to excuse abuse and violence against someone else in the name of, we will be given new bodies in heaven, or in the name of, but you already made an oath, or in the name of, you guys got married in the church and you're believers, and so because of that, you are not allowed to leave. And then there's also that aspect of, we don't believe in divorce. We don't believe in going your separate ways, which I think is one of the reasons why I'm very excited that the number of divorces are becoming even more with time. People are more willing to live relationships regardless of how long they've been, because there's always this idea that longevity automatically means good. So that's why even when people talk about like their marriage life and you ask, the first thing you ask is like, oh, this is my wife. We've been married for 20 years. So that's supposed to indicate that it's a good marriage. And I usually have a problem with that. I have a huge problem with that, because there's someone who can have a marriage that's like 3 years and it's better than a marriage that's been going on for 40 plus years, because it's not about how long it's been. It's about the quality of marriage, not the quantity. Not the quantity in these times, but quantity, you're talking years. The quality of the marriage is what really counts. So I think when it comes to religion, there's also that aspect where you're told, isn't it vitu za nyumbani, we don't discuss them out in the light. And I think they help in hiding, they hide the true nature of how most of these marriages operate. They hide the true nature of these people. They hide the fact that people are going through violence. And then, before we take this break, and then there's this idea of the devil made me do it. See, yeah. Nishita, let's come talk about that when we come back.
Pawa Radio. Tune in and power up.
Control myself while you're driving me insane.
Pawa Radio. Tune in and power up.
That's a new jam that was released last week, actually. It's by Waithaka featuring Zaituni Boy, and his name is Kimba Sax. Yeah, like the saxophonist, Kimba Sax. Yes, it's called I Surrender. Check it out. It's a really, really dope jam. We're having a conversation about the role of religion in gender-based violence. And just before we took that break, I talked about this thing that people are told, or people say, it wasn't me, it was the devil. I really don't like it when people just can't take responsibility for their actions and blame it on the devil. And then after they do that, then you become the bad person for not believing it or for not buying into it or for not accepting their reasoning. I have never understood why any adult with their grown mind would say something like that. Oh, the devil made me do it. Hey, why not God? Why didn't you allow God? Why didn't you call God into that meeting between you and the devil and have him intermediate or do something? It's very... Take responsibility. Say, I did something wrong. I have a problem. Something needs to change. And then you decide what that thing is. But then just going like, Kwani, how many times will the devil tell you to? The devil doesn't even know me. Let's just start there. Alikutuma kwangu aje na hata anijui, hatujuani like that. So I really hate it when people use that and they'll go to church and they'll do the confessions and then they'll be prayed for and then suddenly, then 2-3 days later, they do the same thing. We need to accept things for what they are, okay? We need to accept things for what they are. I don't like when people use your beliefs to gaslight you, because that's what that is. So because they know you're like a believer and you will accept whatever is sent to you by the Lord and all the things, because they know your belief system, then they're like, that makes it easier for me to manipulate you into believing. It makes it easier for me to gaslight you into believing that, in all honesty, it wasn't my fault. Something came over me and then now all we have to do is go pray. Let me tell you, how I would know someone is not for me, the first thing is if they tell me we have to pray on something. No, we can't pray on bad behavior. If you have bad behavior, we can't pray it away. That has to be a personal choice to change the behavior. You can't, now you're putting the burden on me to also pray it away for you. Haibo, who have you become? Surely. The other thing is when people know that these things constantly happen and then they don't want to talk about it. They'll talk about it behind your back, right? Let's talk about like the women in church and the chamas. There's a church I used to go to back in the day. Please notice how I said back. It's because it was that far back in the day. And there used to be, because there's the gender-based violence that's very physical, but there's also the emotional violence that comes with that as well. And I remember one time there's this thing I used to find very peculiar. There was this girl, we were in school together, we used to go to church together, and it was quite interesting that her mom was never allowed to touch money, ever. If she needed anything, she had to tell the dad, and the dad would go buy it, regardless of what it was. Be it clothes, be it panties, be it sanitary, whatever, it didn't matter. And it wasn't because that the dad was just being an involved dad. No, it was because they needed to have power over the mom, and the only way to do that was to make sure she didn't have access to money. So that woman had no access to money. So she'd be at home. They used to have a shop. She'd run the shop, but she wasn't allowed to touch money. She couldn't, ata nyanya. Like, kama hatuna kitunguu ya kupika na amechelewa alikoenda, mtangoja mpaka akuje na hiyo kitunguu, and that's when you cook. That's how bad it was. And for me, I remember looking at that and thinking, that's so... Like there was just something off. I didn't know what the thing was, but I felt like something was really off. I just didn't have a word for it. And that's also like the manipulation. The thing is, we all used to go to church. We were all in the same church. Everyone knew. In church, when it was Sadaka time, money would be passed on to her immediately before the things passed, so that she puts it in the thing. That's how bad it was. And we all knew. Everyone knew. As we were kids, we knew. So I'm imagining even the adults knew. But it was like, that was normal. That was fine. When you would see someone not coming to church because something happened to them, and the something that happened was they were beaten the day before. And so they can't come because then you have the evidence of the beatings. Because you see, nowadays we have makeup. You can hide the things with the makeup. That generation wasn't wearing makeup the way us we wear makeup, And so it's hard for them to like hide it. So the easier thing is to say, oh, alienda nyumbani, or she wasn't feeling well, or nini nini. And then you guys end up in that person's house, alafu mnakuta mamake ako kwa kitanda, like they're badly bruised, and just like, hey, alafu nasikia tukisema, hey, huku jana kulikuwa kubaya. And the worst part is like how people never intervened. I don't understand why people don't intervene. It's someone is screaming, crying for their life, and no one is thinking, maybe we should go help. Even if it's just like, hey, guys, mnatupigia kelele, like something, whatever might help the situation stop. But now, I also sometimes, to an extent, I get, because there's people who will say someone came to help, and then now the next day it became worse because now it was said that, why is that person helping you? Do you guys have a thing going? And gender-based violence is not just one way. It goes both ways. There's violence where it's a woman who's battering their husband. And I remember years ago, I don't remember what year it was. I remember years ago when I think it's a politician who spoke about being a victim of gender-based violence, and he was a man, and people made fun of him. And I was like, that is so disturbing that you would think it's a joke, that you think it's funny. It's confusing. Then there's the whole, oh, I was just drunk, nini nini. And then the pastor will just come and say, yeah, let's just pray together. But then prayer, I think prayer has its place, but it's not the solution. It never has been. It's never going to be. People actually have to do the things. You actually have to do the work. There's the aspect where you'd see someone has complained about, like, that, and then they go home. And then even at home, like by going home, I mean, you go back to your parents' house, and then they call like the pastor and the whatever, and then you start being told things about. I hate how people are kept in situations because of a commitment you made to someone when they presented to be something completely different. I don't think people pay attention to that part. That me, if I know you are going to chapa me, I'm not saying yes to you. I'm not coming to be with you. And also we have there's that savior complex that people have where they think, oh, when they nini, I'll be the one to change them, or they'll find a way to, all those things. We need, that thing we're told, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. That has become a mantra in my life now. When they show you who they are, believe them. You don't have to be shown 50, 60, 70 different times. The first time they show it, believe them. Chances of that being an act, that being a mistake, are very low. Sometimes people are just testing boundaries and they want to see how far they can go with things before you act on it, before you do something about it. And the more they notice that, oh, nothing happened here, then they keep pushing that bar. They keep pushing that bar. They keep pushing that bar. I think there's a time we spoke a bit about gender-based violence, and it was like we were touching on something different. And the numbers were just astronomical. They were very high. And even when we come and start talking about things like femicide, because sometimes I find it weird when people don't correlate things that are very much related, right? There's a time we were having a conversation about rejection, men and rejection, right? And I'm like, it starts there. It starts with being rejected and the way you behave towards rejection. Rejection it's as simple as you shouting at a woman on the street and she doesn't respond, and then now you have feelings and now you start abusing them. That means you have a problem with handling rejection. That goes up, and now suddenly you're in the house with this woman and you come home and you're like, I'm ready to go. And she's like, Aki, today's not the day. And then you're like, no, I'll take it by force. Now suddenly we're entering the realm of marital rape. Then we've seen the statistics on femicide. The highest number of victims of femicide were killed by their husbands or boyfriends. It wasn't a stranger on the street. It was someone they shared a household with. It was someone they were in a relationship with. So these things, the fear that I usually have, and even when you see people talking, and there's even people, I remember there's an aunt of ours where I remember the family that I come from, the women are the business, okay? I come from a lineage of very strong women who've, they've done all the things. They've done all the fighting and they've done all the things to be who they are. They have worked so hard to be who they are. And I remember there's this aunt of mine who ended up in a relationship with, there was this abusive man, and they were trying to get her out. And literally they just said, we don't want to have to come get you in a body bag. We don't want to bury you. And if you stay there, that's what we'll be forced to do. And he was like, you have to want better. It always goes back to that. You have to want better for yourself. And I know how hard it is to live. We're going to talk about that when we come back, how hard it actually is to live these relationships, because it's also not that simple. And it comes with a lot of context and nuance that just telling someone, get out, can't encompass.
Power Radio. Tune in and power up.
That's what he said to me. Rudi nyumbani, doesn't matter what you did. Shoka Moshe, that's what he said to me. Rudi nyumbani, doesn't matter what you did. What you did.
wale unisikiza,
Sikia,
wale unisikia, wale unisikiza,
sikia,
wale unisikia, wale unisikiza, wale unisikia,
sikia,
wale unisikiza,
sikia.
wale unisikia. Isiyo kismat, mi niko grind wakidoz. Pia naomba so pia usimain nikiflows. Ni shukrani narudisha kwa Wanjiko Kimani. Si mgemjua pia nyi mgempea shukrani. Kwa pilka niko, jukuna mali mina dai kufika. Na focus kwa compass ukiona nimeficha. Sio na macho pekee unaweza ona visions. Officials pekee wananijua initials. Get rich or die poor. Niko na phobia kurudi mali nilikuwa. Niku lonely at the top ni sawa inakubalika. Jukule down inakuanga was mara tisa. Kuna wale unisikiza, kuna wale unisikia. Kudedi bila purpose, no kitumia ufea. Nikiamka kesho, bado nakimbia. Na nikilala leo, bado pesa naingia. Wale unisikiza, wale unisikia. Kudedi bila purpose, no kitumia ufea. Nikiamka kesho, bado nakimbia. Na nikilala leo, bado pesa naingia. Wale unisikiza,
Sikia,
wale unisikia, wale unisikiza,
sikia,
wale unisikia. Unapanda mahindi, mi napanda maembe. Vile get ndio tofauti yangu na wewe. Kandula ikutoshi mwenyewe mpatie itamtosha. Kudhanusha nisoma page 2 ndio makosa. Ni sawa tuko equal lakini ujue yonoma iko. Na hivyo ndio itabaki nitakuwa mpaka kifo. Mungu amenipa kakupa ndo bado anaweza kunyang'anya sare pupa. Nadai ku-attain nashindwa ku-maintain. Hii pleasure champagne ni pressure na pain. Kigundua ni mlima ndo mna complain. Fortune si promise you me wife. Nadai ku-attain nashindwa ku-maintain. Hii pleasure champagne ni pressure na pain. Kigundua ni mlima ndo mna complain. Fortune si promise you me wife. Kuna wale unisikiza, kuna wale unisikia. Kudedi bila purpose no kitumia ufea. Nikiamka kesho bado nakimbia. Na nikilala leo bado pesa naingia. Wale unisikiza, wale unisikia. Kudedi bila purpose no kitumia ufea. Nikiamka kesho bado nakimbia. Na nikilala leo bado pesa naingia. Wale unisikiza,
sikia,
wale unisikia, wale unisikiza,
sikia,
wale unisikia. Kwa upepo nyuma yangu na sio mate kwa uso. Love no vaccine na ugonjwa ni very crucial. Seda wacha muendelee, si wote tuko na choices. Sikiza the main take kwa roho, chorea the voices. Kijua kile najua utawacha kufananisha mwezi na jua. Kuna vile utakuwa usipokuwa. Wisdom na favor ndo kitumia uomba. Saya dua. Sikia.
Power Radio. Tune in and power up.
That was Femi One with Skia. And before that, we're listening to Stacey Kamatu with Shokamushe, which basically just translates into come home or go home, go back home, basically. We're having a conversation about the role of religion in gender-based violence. And basically, I wanted to also touch on the Vumilia culture with this one. So there's the idea of perfectionism when it comes to religion and the whole idea of we do not believe in separation, we do not believe in divorce. So if you are someone who believes in a certain faith, and that faith doesn't accept divorce, regardless of the situation, you are stuck. And I think there's, I don't know how many weeks ago, there was a story in the paper where we're discussing the fact that now we are becoming a no-fault divorce type of state. Before in Kenya, you had to have a reason for divorce. You couldn't just say, atupendani anymore, sijiski na umse, niacheni niende. You couldn't say that. And sometimes when it comes to, we were talking about like how hard it is for people to live. When it comes to these things, like there's so many things that have to go into place. First of all, you need to be secure in knowing that you'll be taken care of should you leave without this person hounding you, looking for you, intimidating you, because those things happen. Leaving an abusive person, it's hard. Living an abusive person, say now at this point you even have children, it becomes even worse because they'll start demanding seeing the kids. And there's certain like laws where people will be like, unaona, you have to allow the father to see their children, or you have to allow the parents to be present, and they're trying to do that, and you're trying. There's all that. There's people who will leave, and then the person will come get you where you've left, and the people there will be like, si umekujiwa, and let you leave. So I think there's also a cultural aspect that holds us back. That's also a religious whatever. That's also attached to the religious aspect, because it comes back down to the commitment you made. And they're also being told, just pray on it or pray about it. God will guide you. It keeps people in bondage. It keeps people in those relationships that cause them so much harm. Leaving also, there are certain aspects of leaving that things like finances. So now I'm thinking, like, we go back to my friend's mom. If she'd wanted to leave, she had 2 children. She has no income of her own because she's not allowed to have an income. She has no access to money. And you see, if she goes home, because also the other terrible part about this is sometimes you find that the place you've married into, those people also take care of your extended family to an extent. And so people will tell you to stick around, because if you leave, you're leaving us in a position where we won't have access to the things we currently have access to thanks to the relationship you're in. So leaving becomes this huge burden because it affects so many people. But when you stay, you're the person who's hurt the most. And people sometimes don't pay attention to this. They don't care for this, because then they're just like, yeah, but like, take one for the team. So I know it's very easy to tell people, just leave. But the effort it takes to leave is a lot. It's a lot of effort. And not forgetting also, if you are someone who like grew up in the church, the conditioning starts very, very early. From when you're a child, you're constantly being told about, being a dutiful wife. There's the Proverbs 31 woman. I don't even, whether I need to find out what that woman is about. I don't know what the Proverbs 31 woman. Can we find out what the Proverbs 31 woman is? I'm curious to find out what the Proverbs 31 woman is. Is it like okay, yeah, we found Proverbs 31 woman. Okay, so it says she's presented as a yardstick to measure all Christian women, okay? It was a standard for being a good, godly woman, which meant being a devoted wife and mother who is also a domestic goddess, as well as active and enterprising outside the home. So what is the chapter? Is it like a long chapter? Or is it like something you can just read? It's like Proverbs 31. So is it like, it's chapter 31 and it also has like 31 verses. Oh, and like each verse is something. Okay, that's interesting. But there's a part here that says, many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her the reward she has earned, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate. So it's like, I think the chapter basically just breaks down what the woman is supposed to be. A noble wife, a wife of noble character who can find. She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence. Interesting, because no one ever mentions the Proverbs 31 husband, because there's a mention of her husband has full confidence in, never mind. It's about her. But hey, I've had that thing being shared a lot. I've never bothered to find out what it's about. Because people just go like, yeah, you should be a Proverbs 31 woman. Or someone goes like, I am a Proverbs 31 woman. I've never known what it's about. Me, I always thought it's just about submission, because anytime people are always going like, it's like they just want you to be submissive. And we keep forgetting, it's like, are you worth being submitted to? That's also a question. No one ever, whatever's. And there's no something husband. Where's the chapter on the husbands? We need to know that one as well. It's important. But violence against, so gender-based violence, which is usually against women in most cases. It does go both ways, but in most cases, it's always against women. I think it still goes back down to this beliefs where people think that women are less than, women need to be subjugated. And now if you are believing that on so many levels, where even when you go back to the Bible, it tells you the same thing, it's very hard to convince someone who can now pull up a verse and say, oh, but women are property and should be da-da-da-da, like this, like that. It's very hard now to train that person in their big adulthood to be like, but women are human beings. I know we're still trying to fight just to be seen as human beings. So I think religion does play a key role in keeping people who are experiencing gender-based violence with partners who are violent towards them. I think it does that. I think it should do better. I think these religious leaders and be pastors, sheikhs, whoever they are, they need to, in the counselings that they do for married couples and stuff, I think it should be made very clear from the get-go that violence is a no, right? So mtu asikuwe na ideas that they'll just come chapa you and then the pastor will have their back. It needs to start somewhere. It needs to be like communicated from very early on that here we are not for this. If you do it, this will happen. And also, it's a crime. It is a crime. Why are we protecting criminals? We shouldn't. We should never be protecting criminals. So I do think that it plays a role as much as it helps people get over, because there's people who have also run away to a church and the church has helped them and religion has helped them in, getting to the other side. I'm not talking about the violent people, but the ones who leave, the ones who experience the violence. They've used it as a coping mechanism. But sometimes I think it's important to ask or interrogate if the faith you have is working for you or against you. Does it cause you harm? Because if it causes you harm, then maybe it's not that good for you. Or maybe you just need to change some things. Because Mimi, I would never believe in something or someone that believes it's okay for me to be bitten in the name of anything. Ever. I don't think I would. So I think maybe we need to task our religious leaders to do better, to speak up against violence and speak up against gender-based violence. That way, even people who are sitting within your congregations, they know that this is frowned upon here. And so we can sort of get help from here should we need it. But for as long as you guys keep fronting these guys, it's not going to change. It's not going to work.
Pawa Radio. Tune in and power up.
GL.
Nani cheesy kama yeah. I've been faded, I've been naked, in different places, many faces, X-rated, yeah. I've been patient, I've been waiting. No other one that's come around can do the things you do. Who keep come around, we smoke a lot, Canadian pot, jeans and bomb. Catch a wine, dance along, bounce along, baby, bounce along. Wine and dine, made your mind, it's a clear sign that no other one that's come around can do the things you do. Nobody else can match my energy. Cheesy come my yeah. Cheesy come my yeah. We up all night and still we tryna be busy on the AM. Cheesy come my yeah. Cheesy come my yeah. Oh yeah. Cheesy come my yeah.
I've been faded, serenaded, celebrated. Ooh, very patient. See, I'm not so complicated. Kakwama on my mind. Your toes are juicy, align. Moyo kapiga sign, kisha underline. Only free because you let me be. That's the soda baridi. Can't deny the chemistry. Ukakwama on my mind. Alive. Tukapiga sign.
Nobody else can match my energy. Cheesy kama yeye.
Cheesy kama yeye.
We up all night and still we cannot be busy on the radio.
Cheesy kama yeye.
Cheesy kama yeye. Cheesy kama yeye. Cheesy kama yeye. Cheesy kama yeye.
Power Radio. Tune in and power up.
That was Ben Soul with Zenia Manasseh giving you Cheesy. I like that song. I like that pattern, say Cheesy Kamae. Like, that's like, I think a proper love story is where someone matches your madness. Like, you're on the same level of madness, same level of clownery. Like, mko tu hapo, mko at par. Like, mtu analeta wana yake, unaleta yako, and you are not together. I think that's where it's at. Anyway, natafuta mtu. Kwa sababu inakaa hii weather itaendelea hivi for a while, and heat is of paramount importance. The Met Department said that the nights are going to get colder. Till now we should expect to experience degrees of 8 to 10 degrees. I'm like, is it 14 degrees already zinatumaliza? 8 itatupeleka paka wapi? Now do you see why I need a person? Yeah, so too many applications. I'm actually receiving applications. Apply. But please, msinitumie tu dusties na msinitumie wababa wapendi feminist. If you don't like feminists, don't apply. Don't apply. I think the first, venye tu anaandikanga cover letter. Hapo kwa cover letter yako, you should tell me why you like one, activists and feminists. You have to start with that, and then now you can state your qualities afterwards. So hapo tu yanzie na kuza sera. The first part of selling the sera is telling me why you love feminists, what you like about feminists. Then after that, we can find out about you and your other things. So yeah, send applications, because I was doing the math yesterday, and it broke my heart, because I was like, it's raining heavily in May, so I don't know if May is going to stop raining at any point. I don't think it will. And then June, July comes along, and that's the cold season. We usually experience very cold season in June, July. And then maybe August we might get, because sometimes the June, July, inajipushingi kidogo a little bit into August. So if we end up getting some sun, it might be early August or mid-August. But then the problem is October is supposed to start raining. And the way these rains have been moving, I don't think they're going to start in October. Zitaanza mahali na huko September katikati. I don't know. I got a feeling. I don't know. I'm not, the weather, the sun has just been playing games. So nikifanyia hiyo hesabu nilikuwa like, are you trying to tell me, first of all, maybe paka nuko September ndo tutaenjoy jua. Nata hatujui for how long. Maybe. It's not even like a guarantee. It's more of a maybe. That one was, nikasikia tu hivyo nikasema, walala, now what happens? So yeah, that's the reason why I'm accepting applications and nothing else. Thank you very much for starting to send in your applications. I'll go through them. If you're not contacted, you did not make the cut. If you're not contacted, we went in a different direction. That was our show today. We don't know if Friday is a public holiday or not yet. Tumeambiwa it will be gazetted. Watu wakapande miti. So in case tutakuwa tukipanda miti on Friday. Oh, it's been declared. Tunapanda miti. All kinds of trees will be planted on Friday. So apparently Friday is a public holiday. So Sisa now, these people are messing up with my plans. But that's another day that I get to be at home and do nothing. Maybe now I can finally get my doing nothing day. Yeah, wacha tuone kama tunapandisha hii sherehe happen kesho instead. But yeah, my name is Muthoni Gitau. You've been hanging out with me for the last 2 hours on She Talks, Power Radio. We are here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So in case unataka kunisikiza tena, Friday is the day where we can hang. But ukitaka kuniona tena unaweza niona Monday. Friday ndakuwa nikipanda miti. Unajua sasa nimesema hivyo niko like kuna watu watakuwa wakipanda miti, kuna watu watakuwa wakipanda miti na kuna watu watakuwa wakipanda miti. So decide ni miti gani unapanda, panda ama panda. Yeah, I will see you back here on Friday at 11 a.m. We'll have a show for you. And yeah, you can also catch up with Anne Wanyoke on Friday at 8 a.m. Thank you very much for spending your day with me. I really enjoyed myself here. And I hope to see you next time. Tuko kwenye social media, mitandao ya kijamii. Power Radio is the handle, or I am Muthoni Gitau if you want to see what I get up to when I'm not here. See you. This is Anticipate. Zenia, anticipating kupanda miti.
Power Radio. Tune in and power up.
I'm anticipating, waiting, wondering if I'll make it to our destination. Wondering if our love is wasting away. How we drive into a separation. Can't forget to mention the tension's been lacking. I stay backtracking to the good days. Reverse, you turn, it don't matter to me. Whatever takes me back to what it used to be. Will you go back there with me? Back to when our love was free. Will you go back there with me? Back to when our love was free. I've been feeling off track, wondering what's wrong with me, 'cause something got lost on the way. No, nothing feels the same, baby. I used to get lost in your phrase, something like butterflies and ecstasy. Can we take it back, back on the phone? Whatever takes me back to what it used to be. Will you go back there with me? Back to when our love was free. Will you go back there with me? Back to when our love was free.
Power Radio. Tune in and power up.